folks, I'm Mark Clem, your host for Meet the Members of the National Ski Patrol, and like we always say, all season long. Well, we're still in the pandemic here, I think, starting to open up a little bit, and for the past couple weeks, we've kind of veered away from the frontline workers here for Meet the Members of the National Ski Patrol. In our special COVID-19 editions, we've kind of steered towards how the patrol leadership itself at the division and the local and the national level is preparing to get the ski patrollers back on the mountain, as every business has, going through the protocols. And how are we going to get back to work? How are we going to reopen was kind of the theme. But this week we're going to jump back to the frontline workers for Meet the Members of the National Ski Patrol special COVID-19 edition, or episode number 10. And we'd like to welcome Michael Barber. We've got out of the Eastern Division. Again, we're changing around here. We're dipping down in the Southern Division of the National Ski Patrol to Wintergreen Ski Resort down in Virginia. And we'd like to welcome the patrol director there, Michael Barber. And Michael, thanks for being on with us today.
My pleasure.
And Michael is a fan of the show, and he comments on every show. So last week I said, hey, you want to come on? Or what do you do? And he told me he was a paramedic and a firefighter, and I just found out he's also arranges charter airplane rides for folks. So I guess if you need a ride out west to go skiing, he may be able to hook you up and get you on a plane. I don't know. But again, thanks for being on the show. And how's the weather down there in Virginia?
Today it's beautiful. We're 80s, sunshine everywhere. It's supposed to hit 90s this week. The complete opposite of what I love for ski season. But summer's not too far, and with beaches opening slowly, hopefully we can make a trip that way this year.
Well, sometimes we do have to give up the snow. We didn't give it up the way we wanted to this year. We were kind of shut the door and said, get out. But that happens, summer happens, and we're going to make this thing work. And the first thing I'd like to get into with you, Michael, as a paramedic and being on the front lines, talk a little bit about, and that we're slowly reopening all over the country. Each area's taking steps in a different pace. Are we really coming out of this pandemic right now, in your eyes, what you see out there? Or are people just getting frustrated and say, I'm kind of tired of it, let's move on?
It's kind of a mix. It all depends on where you live. So I'm in Central Virginia. I'm a medic firefighter for the city of Charlottesville, in addition to being the director of ski patrol at Wintergreen. What we're seeing locally, the numbers have started to slow in terms of the cases that are locally being produced by the hospital, the tests that are being done. UVA, lucky for us, is our local hospital, and they were one of the first in the nation to produce a test for COVID that they could do on a faster turnaround and do it locally. So we've had a lot more tests come out of our region, not necessarily positive or negative, but just total number of tests, because they're able to do that. What we're seeing, at least what I'm seeing in the field, is a smaller number of, I'll call it, potential patients that we're picking up, taking to the hospital. But I think a lot of that goes to the education that's been done all the way from the CDC down to the local levels, where we're telling people, these are the symptoms, and all of the symptoms, as we all know, have changed and grown and morphed since this first started.
Right.
Are more aware. Also, I personally have found a lot of people that used to call 911 because of, I say, minor injuries or minor illness. So someone had the flu, and instead of staying home as the doctors had recommended for 3-4 days, see if it comes or goes, it may just be a common cold. A lot of people used to call 911 and say, I need to go to the hospital. I've been thrown up for 2 days. What do I do? Now people are waiting that out a little bit. But I think part of that also goes to, they don't want to go to the hospital where they know potential sick patients are.
Right.
And so I can't say that we're seeing it go up or down. I definitely think we've met that plateau mark and some point of a slowdown. But as we see states start to open slowly into the different phases, and Virginia's in phase 1, and we're starting to get back out to do some outdoor seating for our restaurants and outdoor seating. I live in vineyard country, and we've got tons of breweries here in Central Virginia. And so those locations have been able to open recently for outdoor as long as they meet certain requirements of social distancing and spacing between groups. I think I'd be interested to see where the numbers go with that. As long as people maintain the masks and the safety precautions that have already been set forward.
That's very interesting. That's a good segue to my next question is, how vital, in your opinion, is it, what you see out there, is to continue the safety measures? Don't just abandon your mask. Just don't say, it's over, I'm ready to go, because this is the time where that could happen. How do you stress to say, even though we're opening, keep the safety measures there?
It's huge, because that's what's got us to this point already. We can't say, we've done all this hard work and then drop it. You wouldn't go to work and work on a project for 6 months and then in month 7th go, you know what? It looks like it's progressing well. I'm just going to stop working on this project. That doesn't happen. So the safety measures that we've already put in place, social distancing, being mindful of where you are, washing your hands. We've talked about it for years in OEC, BSI, being safe, wash your hands after a call. I can tell you, when we get to our refresher this year, people will be sick of hearing me say it. But the masks as well. The mask doesn't only protect you from someone else, but it protects someone else from you. If you were to get sick and you have a mask on, you will spread it less. The number of asymptomatic, the folks that show no signs is huge. And I look forward to when we get some testing to be able to figure out how many people truly are asymptomatic. Because I'd venture to say that number is probably significantly higher, in my educated guess. I don't know, than what we think it may be.
Now, just talk a little bit about your experiences fighting the fight of the COVID-19, being on the front lines, and what you've seen out there and how it's kind of maybe opened your eyes, as opposed to being a regular paramedic in the past.
So I'm very fortunate that our industry as a whole has taken a lot of precautions initially. So wearing the gloves and having masks on someone who may have a respiratory issue, both on ourselves or on the patient, have been part of our procedures, but not necessarily to the level they are now. Making those changes, I think, was fairly easy. It was just making sure we had the stock of supplies we needed. I find that the folks we go and see now, when they call us and they're sick, and our precautions on every call, the provider wears a mask, wears goggles, and wears gloves at minimum. And that's just step one. And then the patient wears a mask as well. And when we go in and we ask a patient, I'm here to help. What's the problem? Will you wear this mask for me? Because we've already got ours on. I find people are very willing and welcome to do it. I think, like I said, the education, for the most part, out to the public in terms of what masks can do has been great. I want more education to go out about the different kinds of masks. I know it exists, but getting that specific information out about what does a cloth mask actually cover versus surgical mask versus an N95, and the difference in an N95 and a K95. There sometimes it's just a small change, but that forward-moving education is going to be what makes that big move.
Now, yesterday, the National Ski Patrol introduced some plans that they want to present to the national board at their meeting. I think it's next week, on how we move forward. And one of the items they want to present to the board, in terms of the assessment and patient care, is the initial assessment starting out at like 6 feet away, like just talking to the patient and not respecting that social distance to start. I guess with that said, I mean, is that something that seems like it's possible? And what else have you learned out there about protocols that we may have laxed on, or newer or more inventive? Do you want to bring back to the ski patrol, as we are first responders as well?
That it's funny that you bring that specific point up, because I was talking with another patroller about a week ago about how we've always taught the hands-on for OEC, and how we'll do it here in the future fall. The 6-foot gap when you come on and do your, hello, my name is BSI Scene Safe, all of that. 6+ feet. 6 feet is the minimum CDC recommendation. When we're on the ambulance and we come up to a house, I stay outside the front door. I stay at least 6 feet, often closer to 10 to 15 feet away from someone. And that doesn't matter if it's the patient or someone else opening the front door. Mm-hmm. So, for example, I know in our resort, we do have a fire department and a rescue squad that are on top of the mountain, which is amazing. Their response time is awesome. But we do get called sometimes to locations that are inside a building, be it a resort or be it a resort property, or we've got condos on the side of the hill. And if someone waves, we'll help investigate, and then we'll call the rescue squad and have them come. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that we'll have to learn and educate is that distancing. You can get a lot of information just by talking and looking. I also think it may bring a little clarity into a lot of times we get on scene and we see the problem. Example, someone's got a leg injury because they fell down skiing. Right. So an obvious broken leg. And what do? We hyper-focus on that broken leg. But if I'm forced to stay 10 feet back and start talking to the person, what else may I see? Is there a second patient from a collision? Do they have an arm injury as well? Is there blood somewhere else? So I think it's going to allow us to not only create that distancing so we can prepare ourselves, put on a mask, goggles, gloves, what we need, get out a mask for the patient, but it may also allow us to have a better observation view of the patient that we're coming to and the scene that we're coming into. It's amazing what that extra just moment of pause may put into that perspective view.
Wow, that's a lot of good points, because I've been talking to some ski patrollers that I know that work their job in the off season is work on an ambulance, and that's what you just said what they've been telling me. Yep. Stay the distance for a little bit, figure it out, get a better situation for the scene, and then go in and do whatever you have to do. So very interesting. I guess the next thing, Michael, is are you a different or a better or different care provider now than you were 2.5, 3 months ago because of this?
I'd like to think that, we're always getting better. I think what I am is more cautious, both for myself and for my partner or whoever else may be on scene with me. At the firehouse, anytime we have an advanced level call, it doesn't matter if I'm riding on the ambulance or the fire truck. If it's an ALS call, an ambulance goes and a fire truck comes, be it for lifting assist, be it they may have another medic on it as well. That when we get on scene, we use a scout model. So one person or a crew goes in, depending on what the situation is, it figures out what the problem is, and then we call other people in as we need them. No different than what we've done on the hill in years past. We send one person. So Wintergreen is an upside down mountain.
Right.
We have everything at the top. You ski down to the base of the lift and you ride everything back up to get to the lodge. So we've got 3 different faces and we've got 3 different huts. And so you ski down one person to the call and figure out what you need. I find that model actually has been now adopted more dramatically into what I do on a day-to-day basis at the firehouse. So I think that model is going to stick strong. I think that model actually may grow at other mountains where if they sent additional people, But I think that's true of most NSP patrols that we
Right.
see. The scout model has existed, and I think that's one of the things patrollers on, sure, in the past I've said I need hands. So
Right.
I need, extra people to do. We may try to create some clarity in what is the definition of hands. I need 2 patrollers because, something. Or if you come as the call for hands, maintain that 10, 15 foot space back to figure out who's in charge and what do they want versus just jumping in and saying, I'm here, what can I do?
You're spot on, and we talk about that all the time. And I think it's unfortunate that the pandemic is forced us to do what we talked about before. All models don't work the way we want. It looks great on paper, and then when the fire blows up, things happen. Again, I'm Mark Clem, your host for Meet the Members of the National Ski Patrol, and we're talking to Michael Barber here, the Ski Patrol Director at Wintergreen Resort down in Virginia, skiing in Dixie down there. And hey, folks, for all you patrollers out there, we are going to fix this. Our leadership of the local, the national, and the regional leadership is really going to make it safe enough for us to come back, and the protocols will be set in place. And I'm sure it's the same way down there in the Southern Division. You guys are coming up with the best way to do things and all that. And let me always say this, that the National Ski Patrol Office is not shut down. The National Ski Patrol Office, they may not be working in the office per se. The doors may be locked, but you can pick up the phone and give them a call and they will answer. You can send them an email and they will answer your questions. And for you folks out there that are interested in becoming members of the National Ski Patrol, push forward. It may be a little more of a delay, but we want you, and we're creating a situation where we don't want to miss a beat to get you guys trained and ready to be the next generation of members of the National Ski Patrol. And if you can't get a hold of your patrol director, log on to www.nsp.org, and the folks out at the national office. Now, it may take a few minutes longer than normal, but they'll get back to you and they'll steer you in the right direction. And if you're down there in Virginia, they'll probably steer you to Michael Barber and his Wintergreen Patrol. And I've never skied down there, but I've heard a lot about it. And I know some guys that ski down there, and I got to get down there this winter and
Come visit.
So I guess the next thing, Michael, we want to get at, and are we living in a world that's changed forever because this pandemic? In our world, in terms of, we always preach about the PPEs, the gloves, the mask, and all that stuff. Sometimes we use it, sometimes we don't. We just kind of sometimes cut corners. Is this going to scare us into no more cutting corners?
I hope so. I really, and we're all victim to the having cut corners before. It's one of those things where you thought, oh well, they've got their jacket on, they've got their ski pants on. I don't see any blood. Do I need gloves?
Right.
And the answer, as we train, is always yes. And so yes, I hope this throws everyone into the, I need the gloves on, I need the mask on if it's appropriate, I need the goggles on if they're appropriate, mindset.
Right. Now, 33,000 members of the National Ski Patrol from coast to coast and north to south. A lot of people out there. The vast members of our organization are volunteers. There is a little bit of a scare in events out there that, the volunteers may be hesitant to step up and do that kind of stuff.
you.